Greetings brothers, with Chapter Approved 2022 right on the rise, and today we're going to be asking, can it fix Space Marine armor in 9th edition? And we're going to be doing some analysis to decide just how bad Space Marine armor currently is. So thanks for tuning in to the weekly tactics video, and just before we get into the comparison, let's talk about what we're actually getting and what we know is coming in Chapter Approved 2022. And this is going to be pre-ordering on Saturday, so tomorrow from when this video released. It's going to contain a rework to secondary objectives. Now, engaging all the fronts is now going to either require the vehicle keyword or 3 models in a unit. And no prisoners is going to give 1 additional victory point if you kill over 50, and an additional 2 victory points if you get over 100. Bring It Down has got a slight change, so 10 wound vehicles are basically now worth 2, and 15 wound vehicles are now worth 3, so that's going to affect like Drukhari Raiders, and I guess anything that's over 15 wounds like Land Raiders. Retrieve Octarius data has been changed to retrieve Nakwan data. It's going to be harder with smaller squads. You're going to have to roll a d6, and you're going to subtract 1 from the result if they're not troops. So on a squad of, let's say, servitors, you'd have to roll a d6, and you would need, like, essentially, I think a 4 or less, or you will fail Retrieve Octarius data, so it's kind of more difficult to do. So Investigate Signals is now going to let you start it if enemy units are within 6 of the centre, and if you kill off those enemy units, then it can be completed. And Deploy Teleport Homers will now complete at the end of your turn if performed with troops. Now, it's quite a lot, and I've just broken it down like super quickly, but we did do a video over on the 3 Grots channel this week where we covered all these. It's about an hour live stream, and I'm going to link that up above if you've not checked out. Second channel I work with on Tony and Mark, and we cover all Warhammer content, not just Blood Angels. Then I'd love it if you either check them out or consider giving a subscribe over there. That would be super appreciated. The other things that we're going to cover on that other video is 2 of the Grand Tournament missions for 2,000 points battles were already shared. I think it's likely that a bunch of the other missions are going to get reworked as well, which is nice because in previous years there weren't many changes with the missions. So I think the difference between the book in 2020 and 2021 was minor, so it sounds like 2022's book is going to be a reasonably decent overhaul, and I guess other YouTubers, your favourite YouTubers that get preview copies will probably have one the day after this video, so you can totally check that out. If you are going to order this book, remember there are some links in my video descriptions where if you order through my links, then it helps support the Blood Angels Commander channel. So if anyone wants to do that, super appreciated. Now let's get into the main content of this video, and that is, are we going to see improvements to Space Marine armor? Can Chapter Approved save this? And I wanted to use an example provided by one member of our communities. People will know him. His name is DTM. He's in a lot of our live battle streams and army list shows. And he sent me a comment about Plague Burst crawlers. So I tried to find what I think is the closest thing to a Plague Burst crawler that the Space Marines have, which is pretty much a Predator. If you think about the Sponson, las cannons, entropy cannons, you know, a mortar on the top, maybe like the Predator autocannon. So yes, let's have a look at the Predator versus the Plague Burst crawler, and let's work out if we feel these things are balanced, because the thing that DTM said, and I think it is true of where I stand as well, people have said to me, the Death Guard Codex was strong but balanced. That's where people think Death Guard are. So if Death Guard are strong but balanced, then what do we think Space Marines are? So let's have a look, and we've got a bunch of maths, and you're going to love the maths as we get into it, as we see just how strong but balanced the Space Marine Predator Destructors are. So we know that they've got 1 less toughness. We know they've got 1 less wound. We know they have the save 3-up save, but no invulnerable save against the Plague Bursts, 5-up invuln. We know that Death Guard get -1 to all damage that is greater than 1. And we know the weapons, of course. Predator autocannon, 2 las cannons, and I've thrown on a Stormbolter to try and kind of match them up, because the Plague Burst Crawler has 3 weapons, including the Slugger, so it's 185 points for the Marine tank. Plague Burst Mortars, 2 entropy cannons, and a Heavy Slugger, 175 points, so 10 points less for the Plague Burst Crawler, which we think is strong but balanced. Let's have a look at the weapons and then we'll do some math. So the Predator autocannon, strength 7, -1, 3 damage. The Plague Burst Mortar, which is indirect and is also a Plague Weapon. Plague Weapon means you get to reroll all your 1s on wound rolls. Is heavy d6, strength 8, -2, 2 damage. Entropy cannons, I'd say, arguably are better than las cannons because, again, they're Plague Weapons, but they have better AP, and D3+3 I think is the main thing here. The extra range on las cannons is not that important anymore. The table size is smaller, there's very few times you're not going to be in range with a 36-inch weapon, and then Stormbolt or Heavy Slugger. I guess the Plague Burst has a slight edge here, and the Heavy Slugger has more range. And I guess if we circle back to the first weapon for a second, they're both 48-inch. So these, comparatively, the weapon profiles are fairly similar. I mean, let's get into some maths. And we're going to start with survivability of the two tanks. And what I've done here is I've worked them out against all these weapons. Bolt rifles, Flamestorm cannons, Power Fists, Plasmas. I've worked out the Predator autocannon, the Plague Burst mortar cannon, a las cannon, and an entropy cannon, just because I thought it was convenient to bring in some of the weapons that these things actually have. Now, so let's look at a little bit of survivability, and in this, I basically factor out the hit roll. What that means is, if you hit a Predator Destructor 66 times with a bolt rifle, then you would wound on 5, so that would mean you would get 22 wounds. It would save on a 4-up, right, because it's -1, so that would kill it. So basically, this is the number of hits you need to make. So bolt rifles kill a Predator in 66 hits, and the Plague Burst Crawler needs 144 hits. So this is 218% more survivable against bolt rifles than the Predator. And you'll notice the trend here, in every single weapon, the Plague Burst Crawler is more survivable. You know, toughness 8, better save, invulnerable save, -1 damage. Of course it's going to be more survivable. What's scary is in some cases it's 333% more survivable. I guess in the lowest case, against las cannons, which really aren't in the meta at the moment because las cannons are generally too swingy and unreliable, it's still 56%, 156%. So, quite 11 las cannon shots against 7. Some of these other weapons, all 200%. So you would think, alright, fair enough, the Plague Burst Crawler is more survivable, we kind of expect that. How are we for damage output? And what I've done here is I've taken all the weapons and we've worked out the damage of each gun against these specific targets. And I've gone with difficult targets to kill, -1 damage targets to kill mainly here. And the reason that I've done -1 damage targets is because there's a lot of armies that are bringing -1 damage things to the table because they are very strong. So these two tanks, we're going to go after the -1 damage, and we'll do some non-1 damage as well, just to make sure that the comparison is not skewed. But against -1 damage, these are the damage values, and then I've put them together to basically say, if we're going to be trying to kill Plague Marines with a Predator Destructor, we would do 4.76 wounds. If we were trying to kill them with a Plague Burst Crawler, we would do 7.59 wounds. So in this case, Plague Burst Crawler is 59% better, or 159% of the damage, right? So the Plague Burst Crawler is better against Plague Marines, Plague Burst Crawler, Mortarion, Leviathan Dreadnoughts, Contemptor Dreadnoughts, Telemon Dreadnoughts, Scrapjets, and Deathcopters. So, and most of the time it's about, 40% better? There's a couple here, like Mortarion and the Plague Burst Crawler, I guess, are slightly less, but for the most part, it's about 40% better. So, in recap, I guess so far, the Plague Burst Crawler is almost twice as survivable, and it's doing about 50% more damage against those tough -1 armor things, which is the reason you would probably take a Predator, because you would want las cannons to punch through armor. You're not going to take a Predator to kill Marines or infantry, right? And I do realise this is -1 damage targets, so I thought we need to do this comparison again without -1 damage, because that could be skewing the result, of course, right? So let's fire all those weapons again at non-1 damage targets, and let's see what we get. So against Land Raiders, Plague Burst Crawlers are better. Against Knights, Plague Burst Crawlers are better. Against Armigers, Plague Burst Crawlers are better. Against the Scorpius Disintegrator, Plague Burst Crawlers are better. And against the Drukhari Raider, by 0.018 of a damage, or 2%, we have a winner. The Predator Destructor is better. That's why it's 10 points more expensive, guys. Yeah. Space Marine armor. If Death Guard are strong and balanced, what are Space Marine armor? Honestly, I get Predators are firstborn models, and they maybe don't want to support them too heavily or make them too good, but where they stand right now, I mean, are you joking me? How could you ever consider fielding a Predator? So, we compared, what was that, like 10 different enemy types? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we compared 13 enemy types, and the Plagueburst Crawler was like better significantly against all of them except the Raider. Bear in mind, the Plagueburst Crawler has indirect fire, so if the Raider's ever obscured or anything, then the Plagueburst Crawler probably wins this as well, because the Predator won't be able to see it to shoot it. And then, in the survivability, we just got absolutely trounced by the Plagueburst Crawler. So, this is my question, because everything is going to change next week with Chapter Approved. I hope everything is going to change. In hindsight, 200% more survivability against 7 of the 8 weapons that we tested, 140% more damage against all -1 enemies, typically 120% more damage against all other armor, except that one edge case with the Drukhari Raider, has indirect fire, has a stratagem to make the mortar 3 damage, and it's 10 points cheaper. So really, what would need to happen to make this Predator usable and balanced? I mean, I actually don't know in terms of points. And this is why I said last week, I don't know if balancing things only on points is necessarily the right option, but I mean, that is how Chapter Approved works. You get an updated data sheet of points mainly. So, yeah, leave me a comment. Tell me how many points you think a Predator should be, because at the moment it's 140 for the Destructor, 20 for both las cannons, 5 for the Stormbolter. Like, what would need to change to make this playable? And I guess, what do you think we'll see in terms of Chapter Approved in 2022? As I said, it comes out for pre-order tomorrow after this video released. And if you want to get it on something like Element Games to support this channel, it would be super appreciated. I'm excited to see it. I think that over the last year, Blood Angels have had about a 45% win rate at the US tournaments, so I feel like we should be getting some points improvements here or there. Obviously, I have no idea, and I will try and do a stream or a video as soon as we get a copy of the book or we see the points costs. So keep an eye out for that, guys. I hope you're having a great week, and I will catch you all in the next video. By the blood are we made strong, brothers.